Hi everyone. In this video, we're going to talk about Bitwise. Bitwise operator like this. Bitwise or operator like that. So that is what we call Bitwise or o operation. Operation. Okay, so if you have a question like this, if you have a question in base 2 system binary, what is the value of 2 bitwise operator 1 1? So you're going to add them like this, like compute them like this, 0 0 1, and then 0 0 1 1 like that. Then here is 1 1 equals to I think 1, right? Then 0 1 is 1, and then this is 0 and then 0 bitwise operator. Yeah, I think that's it, right? So the result of 0 1, so the result of this 0 1 bitwise operator 1 1 in binary is 0 1 1, which is 3 in decimal. So what is this in decimal? This is should be 1, right? Decimal. And this is 3 in decimal. So this is also 3. Yeah, I remember using this before in our previous team. I didn't understand this actually how they compute it. So let's ask ChatGPT like an example on how to use it. Uh, can you give me a practical usage of bitwise or operator in C sharp? Okay, certainly. The bitwise OR operator in C sharp is used to perform a bitwise inclusive OR operation between two integer values. This can be useful in various scenarios such as setting specific flags in a bitwise and bit mask. So practical usage, bit masking and flag management. Imagine you have a set of flags that represents different states or options in your application. Each flag can be represented by a single bit in an integer. You can use the bitwise OR operator to combine flags or set specific bits. Here's a practical example. Let's say you have an enumeration for different user permissions. So this is yeah, non user permissions you can read. So this is the bitwise this is the value you can write. This is the value execute. So this is also the value and delete. This is the value. So each permission is represented by a single bit, and the flags attribute helps in displaying a readable format when combining permissions. So combining flags, you can use the bitwise OR operator to combine permissions. So user permission dot read, and you can also have user permission dot write. So the user permissions, yeah, this I think this is how we use it before. In this example, user permissions now has both read and write permissions. The value of user permissions would be 0011 in binary, which is 3 in decimal. Okay, and checking permissions to check if a specific permission is set, you can use the bitwise operator, bitwise and operator. And so can read, it's like this, user permission and user permission that read is equals user so this is checking if the user permission can read, can write, user permission that write. Huh. So in this case, can read will be true and can write will be true because both permissions are set. Here's a complete example that demonstrates setting, checking, and displaying permissions. Okay, so user permission dot read and dot write, permissions. So can read, can write, can execute. Can read is this will output can read true, can read false, can execute. Can execute. Yeah, because the can execute is not added here. So only the user permissions here is only dot read and dot write, set with dot read and dot write. So user permissions, how to read this in English? In plain English, the line can like this. So can be read as check if the user permissions variable includes the read permission and store the result in can read. If the read permission is included in user permissions, can read will be true, otherwise it will be false. Okay, so it's checking if this exists here, and if the user permission has user permissions that read and it is equals to this, then can read. Yeah, it's weird. This compares the result of bitwise AND operation with user permission that read. If the result is equal to user permissions that read, it means that the read permission is in bit is set in user permissions. Can a bool can read. This is a boolean value that will be set that will be true if the read permission is included and the user permissions and false otherwise. Okay, so yeah, so that is how you do it. So you can set the permissions through here. Um, can you add how this will be implemented, including database setup? Okay. Okay, where are we now? Okay, so certainly I'll provide a complete implementation example including the setup of the database, C# code to manage permissions, and how to check permissions using bitwise operations. Database setup. For this example, let's use a simple SQL database to store user permissions. We'll create a user table with a permissions column that stores the permission as an integer. Okay, enum definition. So we define the user permission enum with flags attribute. So this one here, the flag, and then we set up the zero, then the one, and then the two, and then the three, and the four. Oops. And then data access layer. Use entity framework core to interact with the database. Here's how you set up. Okay, so query string, blah blah blah, username, user permissions. Okay, so data access and permissions check. Here's how you could create, update, and check permissions. Okay, so here you create John Doe permissions. Okay, okay, and then check permissions. Be context, find user, then check the permission. It is can read, can write. Okay. Add Angular setup and Angular form to create a user with permissions. Okay. Okay. Let's integrate Angular to create a user with permissions and interact with the API to manage permissions. There's an example, blah 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 blah. Install required packages, blah blah blah. Angular form, service, okay, permission is a number. Then HTTP post, okay, add methods as needed, okay, get Angular form for creating user, okay, the user form. There's what's this? Can read, can write, can execute, can delete, okay. Okay, so you can actually also define bitwise operation in JavaScript. So permissions, okay, form that can. So if the form has a value of dot, the dot read has a value, it will give you this, and if not, then it's gonna be zero. If it has dot write is true, then you're gonna put permissions here, and if not, and these are all in or operation. Okay. Okay, so permissions, and that's it. You're going to submit the user, and then yeah. Okay, so that's it. Bitwise operation also in Angular side. Okay, that's it. Thanks. Bye bye.